This is Matrilineal Broadcasting Corporation. Inspired.
What here to actually put in. Anybody wants to? You're sorry, Smela, did you want to say something? Sorry, I thought you had to. Anybody wants to? Okay, yes, at half past we will be going, and the food is really fantastic. But let us have your questions now, and even contributions.
All right.
Yes, Bob.
Okay, thank you. I think I will direct this question to Dr. Skavati. We are aware that currently in Zimbabwe, there is this program.
Inspired.
It's a commission, it's a National Peace and Reconciliation Commission, which does not have any truth in it. We know that there was so much commotion due to the composition of the commission. My question is, do you think the commission is of any value, particularly to the people of Matabeleland and what they stand for, their aspirations and interests? Maybe if you can comment on the composition as well. Thank you.
Oh, you're taking questions?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to answer that one first. No.
I can take it.
Yeah. Just take that one, or take that one. Okay.
Right. You asked about the NRC and its value, whether it has any value to the people of Matabeleland. To begin with, its current composition is clear that actually, you see, you cannot. One of the things that's happening in Zimbabwe, which has happened for years, actually, and it's being encouraged, is that when the people from Matabeleland complain about what's happening and the issues of marginalization, which I've called the cultural genocide of structures, when the people of Matabeleland complain about the marginalization and, of course, so many other things that are denied them, they are accused of being tribalists. They are accused of, if I may use the language of the young generation, they are accused of being haters. Here is one thing. You cannot expect the raped to actually love the rapist. And what we see in the case of Zimbabwe is that the one who actually is at the forefront of all the murders, the actual genocide, and the continuation of it to this day, has decided to form a structure which is designed to address the issues that he's continuing to do. So the composition of it naturally is a farce. It does not help in any way. You would have expected it anyway to be composed the way it is. Because otherwise, if it was to be composed otherwise differently, it would have been very worrying. Must I add that one of the reasons why Zimbabwe even experienced a coup was because of this Gugurahundi issue. It was because people like Mpogo and others were actually very committed to addressing the issue of Gugurahundi to the extent of saying, look, let us have truth-telling in it. Because you are going to have, the way it's composed right now is designed to actually impede the process of truth-telling. You're not going to have this thing called national reconciliation. Why should I reconcile with a person who actually came, murdered, and brutalized my people, when in fact the same person is refusing to talk to me about it and telling me that let bygones be bygones? What are bygones then? So the problem here is actually the fact that we expected the composition to be exactly the way it is. In fact, I'm shocked that it's composed this way because it's a bit better. I would have expected it to be worse because I actually expect this murderer who's actually sitting there, the seat of power, to actually continue refusing to acknowledge it, because in the first instance, if he is to acknowledge that we need really truth-telling, he knows that his name is going to be at the forefront. So I think to the people of Matabeleland, it's of no value. In fact, what is of value to the people of Matabeleland, it's for them to define who they are, what they want. Look, we have gone beyond the stage where we should actually be asking the government of Harare to be determining to us in the first instance how we should address this genocide. It is now in us to determine how we want to go forward about the issue of ground. In fact, the more they actually refuse to address it, the more they are actually informing even the younger generation that there is need for us to address it in other ways. I hope I've answered you.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Right, it's a culture, the dilution of culture. I mean,
Is it addressed to me?
to the panel, because I'm sure when you're reading in preparation for this discussion, you must have done a lot of literature survey, so you probably would have come across how people can contain their culture, given the diversity that the whole world is all about now. I mean, the simplest example is if when we were growing up, or how Bulawayo was urbanized, only men lived in town or worked in town, and kids and wives stayed at home. So it was easy to sustain the culture. But as this development mushroomed out, Babali Popoma, Babali Baba Fields, things changed. And you extend that to now, we left home, we're over here now. How do we then try and contain our culture, given all these leaps that we've gone through? Any of you guys?
Can I? Okay.
I think I
Just
probably
minute.
spoke about it a little bit, about the urban culture. The problem that existed between or far before 1980 was totally different. But after 1980, things changed. If everybody, those who were old, probably like you, will recall that Bulawayo was surrounded and every house was searched. If you recall that.
No, I was already there.
Well, we were probably already up. People were so much intimidated that there was no Shona people in Bulawayo. They were there, Dobistek, they have been there, but they were not enough to influence the change of culture at all. The 1990 thing came about, 1990 after Joshua Nkomo signed this agreement. That's when Shona people started moving up. And because we had been intimidated, people just stood by and watched everything happening. That has fomented new things altogether within that urban environment. Children, now we have shown that nobody, akula mntu ongela mzukulu lapha or ufara emzini wakhe. If you will be a unique one, but the batwelo farai. But let's not forget that the farais themselves envy to have their fathers and envy to whatever with their father's culture, to associate themselves with their father's culture. That dilutes the whole cultural setup. So the onus is on us. What is it that we want to do? And the question goes to everybody, not me alone, because I don't necessarily have an answer. But what would you say to your own grandchild? So I will put it back to the floor and say, the question goes to everybody else so that we know how best we can solve this problem. Thank you. Maybe then somebody can.
Before
Sorry, what do you want to supplement that? Okay.
Before we maybe proceed to the second question, or rather third question, to add to what my brother here has just said, some of the things that can be done to address this problem of, in fact, like I said earlier on, culture has two variables. It is learned, it is shared. So that which you call dilution is part of learning. I'm sure you have noticed that as culture grows, it grows through the language. And language is not static, it's not frozen in time, it grows. And you have noticed it even as in Sagit, that we have certain words that we got from other language or from other languages, and we were able to bring them into our language as part of the growth of our language. For example, Ibaleli Tumfushwa, a lot of you maybe may not realize this. It comes from the word for the future. But so it's part of cultural dilution, which is actually positive. So there is positive value in it. But it becomes a problem if cultural dilution leads to stagnation, which I probably believe is what we are talking about. Now, cultural stagnation can be addressed, particularly when you look at our situation here, through the revival of like what we are doing today. And going forward, the revival of what I tend to refer to as cultural festivities, cultural festivals. For example, there was a time when I first came here in the UK, I influenced some guys to talk about and come up with the idea of Umzilikazi Day celebration. We need that. If Banani could be part of the arrangement that will actually spearhead such activities. We could also have, for example, Lopengula Remembrance Day or Lopengula, Cultural Day. We could even have, I have heard from some of my cousins that there is the Kalanga Festival. Those are ways by which we could address cultural stagnation. But to stop it, or rather to encourage it even more, or to encourage our people to participate in these more, we need to encourage our women, that is mothers, brothers, our sisters, and of course our brothers, to attend those. We need to encourage even more our children. But why did I emphasize women? Remember, in our society we say, if I may put it in English, the first teacher in life is Umama. So we need to encourage our women to participate in these activities so that then our children will come and participate in them. And in the process, gain that aspect of value. Those are some of the aspects that we need to consider.
I will I will cut just a little bit before you actually. I want to leave Dr. Matera because Dr. Matera, you are okay. Okay. What? Yeah, sorry. What?
All right.
But just a little bit. Is it something that because he had?
It's something to do with the cultural tradition.
Okay, go on.
Liyasizwa indebele lonke la? Lonke. Idealism inale ukuthi sinasithi sisodwa sikhulumeni ngesikhiwo. Ngihambile ngale makhalangeni ngathiwa bekhuluma ngesikhalanga bonke throughout.
Wonderful.
So khona ukuthi ikhuluma ngakho cultural dilution iqasa ngakho khona ukuthi lilodwa lapha likhuluma ngesikhiwo. You are so accommodative of other tribes and races. Uthi ligcinisa isintu senu lapho sibulala. Akethi lisifundiseni lani mandela. Nxa lihlangene lodwa sikhulumeni ngolimi lakithi liqhatshe ngalo. Abantwana laba labaphakathi bazafunda njani isintu? Ngoba sesichazwe isilungu sankhona. So ikwenza ukungezela khona but i-dilution iqasa ngathi lishona people are speaking ngibabuya ngalo kubulawa lingu 10 A1 lonke la kilizishona lizama umaccomodate ukuthi uyini lwafa njalo limo lufa njalo limo. It's simple, straightforward.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll have look to watch. Get on it.
Yeah. I was of great interest, like imvuselelo yomuntu bethu. It's a very nice time. Then I found myself in my conscience, approach to, let's say I meet somebody trying to explain culture and how do is there any way that I can explain my culture? Even from our people how do we get into our culture? What is our culture? How do we explain our culture to somebody? Because now as I'm listening, it is not like we're talking about our originality. He nearly came with a point, this gentleman here. We have to pronounce it with our mouth. Abazali babe able to talk to our children about ourselves, where we come. But now, we are talking about, we have gone much more into politics, which I've realized in most of the speakers that have spoken, which I said, politics has found us weak in our own culture, that we didn't have a base of saying we are here. Now, we have been mingled and pulled out of our culture because there has been fear that has been brought into our state of life to cancel our existence in our own culture, which is, those are the factors that have affected our culture not to be actually witnessed. Even about how can they teach culture? I don't know how they will start. Maybe they might tell me. I mean, I have tried to go through it in how do we define our culture? It seems now we are just mixing up a lot of things as culture. What is our culture? And how do we get into our culture?
Sorry, I'm glad that your comment ended up as a question. I will ask Dr. Skabata to actually sort of fill that and then I'll bring this gentleman in. But before I will really say how important it is for us to come back after they play into this. And apart from anything, Mrs. Spona, who still have got to actually give us a bit of a talk, but we do have to actually follow that program. Dr. Skabata.
Can I ask the
Yeah,
gentleman?
no, sorry.
I think he wants to bring something else related to it.
Sorry, to bring to us,
Yes,
yeah,
this
yeah.
Related to what we just
Yeah,
discussed.
okay.
My name is Mr. Maplanka. I'm a representative for Tribalism Republic Party. On this particular question, it's very interesting that we are looking at the chronology of events, how our culture became so irrelevant. Ngiyahlanganisa. Kusho ukuthi khonapho ngakusenzakala njalo ukuphela kobuntu bethu into eyenzakala politically asonto yaphuma ukuzenza nje yavuka isizenzile into yahlala phansi bayiplana and yenzakala ngendlela ababekuplane ngakho thina ngase si responda to into leyo abasenza yona sesihamba siphuma ukwenza nje kodwa lathi singaplani to response singazama ukuthi okay let's respond politically undoda lo ukhulumile wathi ungavela ukukhulume ngepolitics kahle kuthiwa uli-tribalist ufanana ungaze uhambe amazwe wonke omhlaba angaka jikelele ungafika lapha kule racism khona ungazama ukuyilwa le racism but unguyi-racist eZimbabwe is the same situation ungathi akhuluma ngepolitics to solve our cultural problems bakutshela ukuthi uli-tribalist but akumelanga siyivume inarrative yona leyo kumele sisukume sibambane ngoba mbona ngathi imthwakazi yona ngayo mina ngathi ngidasukuza into zomthwakazi azizwa ngodwa ukuthi imthwakazi represents the region but in Mthwakazi there are many different political affiliations kulabo ZAPU kulabo MLF kulabo MRP kulabo bantu I think they do this intentionally ukuthi best divide we can't go anywhere singamaqembu amancane kangaka.
I will bring you in. I'll bring you in. You said something about this was deliberate. Ababuya ngesikhathi silokho kwakule nto kuthiwa i-Africa Education Trust. I-Africa Education Trust actually had that perspective ukuthi khona umuntu who comes, they actually refer to ukuthi khona comes from the west of the country. They should not be brought to actually because it was something, it is like the rising dam. This thing has been going for a long time. It's like silent death, and that's why it's important to actually have this day. And I'll probably sort of take one more person, and then please come back for the play, and then come back with 30 seconds. This, was the question and answer. As I said, I've got two quite important speakers with you.
Babatwala ngizaphendula umbuzo wakho but ngingaphendula umbuzo wakho ngifuna ukuthi ngiqale nginike ama-examples awu-2 kule nto okuthiwa i-Highlanders le nto okuthiwa i-NUST i-NUST is a university stands for National University of Science and Technology ngicela ukulibuza lonke angazi bagaka sebeka bahamba bayahlala emagumeni i-Highlanders zihlala sonke so sile feel of power what it is sonke sinje siyakwazi ukuthi okwenzakala nxa i-Highlanders idlala lapha abantu ababe stadium umfutho abalawo le ndlela abakhuluma ngazo bethuka labo abababona bengani ababancediselayo ababusi lamashoni siyakwazi sonke ukuthi bakwenza kanjani angithi siyezwa abantu ukuthi babe bechiseka kangakanani. Do you really believe what is Zimbabwean government ingela problem le Highlanders? Do you really believe what is Zimbabwean government? I know man ukuvali Highlanders ukuthi we stop if they wanted. They would have closed a long time ago. What do you think is the reason why they are actually keeping it? Umbuzo one is then always feel inast. Sonke siyakwazi ukuthi iMatabeleland as a region, region in terms of pharma sciences, that is poorly infrastructured. We all know that. Very few scientists. Now, even to this day, I'm reaching a matter looking Jalwan. Why was NAST established in 1990 and still continues to exist yet, and is called the mother of universities of sciences and technologies, science and technologies, but I actually taught them. I only discovered the answer why NAST was established after a year in actually, NAST was not designed for what it claims to be. No. Actually, after Ikura own discipline, walandela ukuthi sebebona ukuthi sebeqedile physical violence, they have counter psychological everything. The second thing that had to be dealt with was liyakhumbula ukuthi uBulawayo mfowethu uEzra liyakhumbula ukuthi uBulawayo kwakuthiwa ngontutu ziyathunqa kwakuthunqa zipindu ama-factory. INAST became in Zimbabwe the first university. Look, I'm telling you this authoritatively because I did research and I even published it. I can send you my publication. I was shocked because I discovered that NAST was established in 1990, just after Ikura. Now, what is interesting, it became the first university in Zimbabwe to have a curriculum that actually it was a 4-year program. And the 3rd year, we would send our students to go and do what we call internship or city attachment. Our students learn wonke abehambi Oliver Brothers and all these big industries go. And after spending 9 months there, they will then write a report, which is like an intelligence report of what exactly happens in that organization, or when the organization is 7 kickstart. And guess what? All our students were shown. And guess what? 10 years down the line, those same students who had gone there were then given the task of being the managing directors of those companies, but this time around headquartered in Harare. So the idea of NAST was in fact to destroy Imatebelele, so that all these organizations that are in Matebelele and Amap factory won't get Harare. Now, Ibulawa is into test two now because the market has a ham. Genuinely now, the essence of the economy is gone. As the economic hub, Yama factory is gone. That was the idea. Now, what does this bring us to? I'll go back to the issue of the islanders. We are partly to blame because we actually have been fooled for so many years into believing that there is no link between culture and politics, yet culture is actually political. Culture, in simple terms, to define it for you, Tuan, it is the sum total of your hopes and aspirations as a people, how you represent yourselves and how you seek to see yourselves as a people in terms of your identity and belonging. That's simply what culture is. Now, if you as a people refuse to see it in the political sense, even Lado Olibusa, Uzatnaibusa, Ayale Uchi and Olibusa and politics, at no culture and politics. Can Barcelona? I'll give you an example in Barcelona. If Barcelona is actually a symbol of it's a symbol of the people of Catalan. It stands for them. And in case you didn't know, I spent time at the University of Barcelona last year. I was very fascinated because I discovered when I was there from my colleagues who are Catalans, hardcore Catalans want to break out. They were telling me that actually Barcelona is one. They will never have a player from Madrid, no matter what. As we play very winning with right now. Whereas the Tina Islanders, Tina, no, you see, we don't want to be political. You know, see, I'm tired Tina, Uchipoto, very Arabians, means Uchipoto. See how foolish we are. So, see, as Pila, who's Barame, who's from Munyan, again, who's Komela, this is where we have a problem. Now, so we have gone through a problem of cultural stagnation, which is actually self-inflicted. The day we deal with that, it's the day we will realize who we are and realize our dream. The dream of actually being people. We are dreaming.
Just to fix the story. Isn't that born out of Ubuntu today to be accommodated?
One of the things about the Ndebele, because we are originally a people where the kingdom who were self-sufficient, was that we were able to bring other people. One of the things that was unknown about us, which I was interestingly talking about it, Professor Kajeni Swaleliso, we were talking about it because of planning a book about this, is what we call composite land. Amandebele, because they were self-sufficient, they could actually go and bring other people in. To the extent ukuthi umuntu ocaptured aqine instead ukuthi abe plan ukuthi ngizabaleka kanjani aqine eselwela ubundebele bakhe yena ekulethele constructed way. That thing, while we celebrated it at that time because economically we had what we call political economic power, one of the things it did over time was that it killed our sense of understanding that our identity is the one that's now at stake, is destroyed. We continued on that path as if it was suicide. This is where we are still. And the day we will change that is the day we will realize the need to reverse. Because we haven't reversed it. We are still on the path as a child. We need to change that.
I will, sorry, could you carry your, sorry, I don't want to cut, I really appreciate but the timing has got to be very, very important. Now, perhaps just actually shutting this, where we are in the possible difference with people that actually don't know. Remember, Utum Ziligas started where he started with only about 300 to 400 people. And he built a nation. Yet, with hardly anything, in Goma, that's where you are. You look at the mentality of actually building a nation and then destroying a nation. And yet, the present government found something that was functional, the jewel in the crown of Africa, and it destroyed it in about 3-4 years. So it is the perspective of where people are going. And in fact, in the definition of a nation and a state, I think that was quite important. But I'm not actually shutting anybody, but I really cannot extol the version of which will actually sort of inform our discussion more than what you're going to see. If you had not seen the rain that washes, I would say, as I said, bring a lot of tissues, because it will tell you which actually fits in very, very much. When you destroy a people, you don't need guns to destroy people all the time. You can destroy them the way that e-culture has actually emerged. Can I ask this? Please, kindly, lihambe, have the food. I think people are hungry. People came here at 9, 10 o'clock as I did. But by a 15:15, because you know these actor people, they really are very, very fussy about the time and they want to go after that. So at a 5:15, and then afterwards they will do a question and answer. And we can then carry on. I'm sure that some other people have arrived there. And then we possibly sort of continue for about another 30 minutes with our questions. As Captain Pan, thank you.